Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today, welcome to join the CIB President's Seminar. That is a regular seminar series in the whole year, initiated 3 years ago by Professor Mark Hastak, our immediate past president from Purdue University. Today, I'm very honored to invite Dr. Nora Johanne Klungseth as a speaker. Nora is an associate professor in project and quality management at the Department of Mechanical and Industrial Engineering at Norwegian University of Science and Technology. Nora is one of the joint coordinators for the CIB W70, the Facility Management and Maintenance, and the chair for Standard Norway's Committee for Facility Management. She has a background from the facility management, consulting, and IT industry. In her current work, she focuses on digital transformation, sustainability, and value creation, and enjoys linking the topic to innovation, the implementation and use of FM standards, and the effect this has on organizations. So, may I invite Nora to speak now? Nora, please.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and present here at the President Seminar Series. The topic was up for a suggestion, and I chose a topic that I work a bit with, and a topic that I'm have many interests in, that many have interest in. Some would say that it's been researched for a while. I see it still as a quite new topic, which is unexplored within particularly FM settings. I've prepared this agenda for today and kind of 4 sets inside the presentation. I'll start with presenting the Commission, what FM is, and what the CIB W70 is about, before I continue to an introduction to the topic and my perspectives around transformation and how it relates to the CIB W70. Thereafter, I'll continue to present some research around research and evidence-based standards and their role in transformation, before I end with a few examples of later research. This commission had one of its first conferences just after Corona in 2023. And at that conference, it joined together with the ISO for a meeting of the mind. And for both these communities, they met for the first time in person since the beginning of the commission. This is a nice way to collaborate with different organizations. Both these work with FM. So I thought I'd start to tell a little bit about what FM is all about. The short abbreviation FM has slight differences depending if you are in US or in UK and Europe. Some use facility, which is more common in US, and some says facilities, which is more common in UK and in Europe. And since the beginning, when I came into the world of FM, I always heard about the 3 Ps, the people, the places, and the process. One of the first illustrations I came across was this made by Per Anker Jensen in Denmark from 2001. I redrew it in my master thesis, and it says FM is all about the core business, the goal of the core business. It's all about the people who works within it and the facilities within the workplace. Another very popular illustration is the one by Duffy from 1984, which is saying that FM is all about the mental world, the people, the physical world, the place, and the virtual world, the processes. In the US, they have been relying on the definition that IFMA has developed, which says that facility management is a profession that encompasses multiple disciplines to ensure functionality of the built environment by integrating people, place, process, and technology. And if you see in the two next present illustrations, now definitions, then the technology is kind of disappearing as a topic. And that is because many see technology as part of the process, like Duffy described. Processes is also about the virtual world. In Europe, we first time got our kind of united definition in 2006, 2007. And that described facility management as an integration of processes within an organization that maintain and develop agreed services which support and improve effectiveness of the organization's primary activities. And for quite a while, this agreed services actually spurred some discussions and debates. Many thought that meant FM was all about outsourcing. And it is not. It is both about internal and external services. No matter where the services are performed, there will be at least two parts which needs to agree on what they should be, whether it's an external organization or it's another organization within your own or another department. 10 years later, in 2017, we got the global definition from ISO level, which said that FM is an organizational function which integrates people, place, and process within the built environment with then two purposes. And the purpose of improving the quality of life of people and the productivity of the core business. And this definition and standard was updated in 2024 and it remained the same. So currently, we actually globally have a united definition that everyone is agreeing on for facility management. And the CIBW 70 Commission for Facility Management and Maintenance have these objectives and scope for the work. We want to communicate our work through publications and symposium proceedings and forums like this, where we share what we are doing. We are all about fostering a deeper understanding of how our built environment influences human behavior, health, and organizational productivity. We promote strategic and operational values of facility management and asset maintenance in meeting emergent business needs. And we want to forge closer links and collaboration between financial, technical, social, and operational aspects of facility management and asset maintenance through an integrated resource management approach. And we aim to disseminate the findings of research work on facility management and asset management to a wider audience. And today, in this President webinar series, is an example of that. And we see ourselves as a forum of exchange of know-how and best practice in education, in research and industry that addresses physical workplace and functional workspace demands. My way into facility management in this commission can be depicted like this. We started long through my career. I've been part of work with standards, and quite in 2021, we were a group of researchers in FM who realized we were also working with standardization together, and we joined and wanted to make these two communities come closer together. So we decided to write a publication telling about how these worlds link together. We advanced it from a CIB conference paper at the World Building Congress 2022 into a journal article. And we created a specialized issue where people around the world could come and say their opinions and experiences with using standards of relevance to facility management. And then we launched a conference here in Trondheim, the first conference after Corona, where people could meet physically. After this, I joined the CIB W70 as one of now 2 coordinators. And one of our first tasks was to be part of arranging the World Building Congress 2025 in Purdue. As part of this special issue and the conference, they kind of joined together at the same time. We were lucky to get this opportunity to make openly available all the articles in the special issue for the conference for 1 month. Our commission collaborates with the journal facilities, so we have this opportunity to do that. So I think this is a great opportunity for others to do later on as well when we have events that we can reach out and we can ask if this is possible. So this was one of our gifts for authors and industry for that conference, 1 month free access to all the articles. Recent activities that we have had within our commission is reconnecting with our commission base, membership base. We have webinars twice a year. The next one is planned in October. We just had one where Kathy Mitchell from who's liaison for the CIB board came and presented some of her work. And the next one, which we are planning for now, is the World Building Congress 2028 in Beijing, where Don Ping Fang works. So then we have the opportunity to come and visit his university and to be there for a week together talking about research around the built environment. We are quite a young coordinator group now. And this is also partly why we are reconnecting with our membership base. In FM, we have kind of a little bit of a change in the members. Many have been part of the CIB group for long, and we just took over from the former coordinator who retired. So we are trying to look for all the new people at the same time as we want to take care of all those who are towards their end of their career. So we are working on reviving this commission group. Then let's talk a little bit about transformation and how transformation relates to the W70. There are different kinds of researchers out there who like to use the term transformation and transition. Some use these terms interchangeably, some relate very much to one of the topics. Some see that transitions is a way, step forward towards transformation. I belong to those who think of transformation as a more all-encompassing process that changes cultures, that changes processes, that changes business models, and the transition is part of small steps on the way to transformation. When I have my focus on transformation, I tend to have 2 different ways to look at it. Sometimes I combine both, sometimes I isolate one of the perspectives. Within sustainability perspective, I'm very fond of looking into strong sustainability and planetary boundaries and global north-south perspectives. What we do here in the north should not negatively affect the southern hemisphere and vice versa. And I think this perspective aligns very well with the CIB. CIB is also about kind of uniting the world, bringing researchers together across the globe to enhance the built environment through research and innovation. And then we are dependent on advancing each other, not harming each other. My main disciplines are 2. My background comes from facility management. Now I also work in project management and have most of my work around that topic. And for me, these 2 topics really link quite well together. They both have to relate to strategies, and they both create good outcomes for the organizations. Before, it used to be a very strong distinction between these two disciplines, but one of the later works and standards in project management is saying that there is a kind of an overlap between these two, which is blurred. It's not a sharp separation of the two topics. This illustration is for me one of the clearest kind of proof that digitalization enables sustainability and sustainable statistics. For me, it relates back to the times during Corona. We changed the way we behaved quite drastically at that time. We stopped polluting, we stopped our transportation, and all these activities that we changed at that time resulted in nature kind of taking back its space. So many of the cities and places around the world who is heavily polluted started to see the clouds clearing up, and they were able to see mountains and places and objects that they hadn't seen in a long time. Nature also started to take back the cities. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, it's not uncommon sometimes to see animals in the cities, but there are many cities which this is very uncommon. And through these periods where we kind of stepped back, it was very clear that the earth could be revived and that the animals started to emerge back and take their space. And through this time, we managed quite well due to digitalization. So for me, this is the simplest example of showing the relation between these two and how they affect each other. We were 3 researchers who joined together for this research and evidence-based standards role in transformation. This term was actually announced to us or suggested to us by one of our reviewers, and I would sincerely like to thank that reviewer. I really like the expression. We talked about standards role in transformation, and then this reviewer was saying it's research and evidence-based standards. And that term I really do love. Standards surrounds us everywhere. So it's something we normally don't think of at all, but it's something we always do use. And it's what enables us to cross countries, cross continents, and still rely on the possibility to use the same gadgets. So when we connect the USB-C cable, it is a standard behind describing that. It's also standards behind blue ball pens and paper sizes, and most of the gadgets that we have around us that appear similar often is the result of a standard. Someone who sat down together and found an agreement on how things could be. Developing and implementing standards can take quite a long while. And the metric system is one of the first and a good example that shows how long time things take. This developed in France in 1801 and became obligatory in 1837. UK did not adopt the system before in 1965, over 100 years later, 130 years later. Whereas the US was quite quick in its adoption. It legalized the metric system in 1866, so about 30 years later, and made a non-compulsory use of it available at that time. So even if we have an agreement, it still takes time for it to be implemented around. And it's the same with the FM standards as well. But we have to start somewhere and to find our way forward. So if we should explain the simplicity of how standards operate across the globe, we can think of these 3 relations. Every nation have their standardization bodies looking for how standards can operate within the country. Here in Europe, in our continent, we have a standardization body called CEN, which unite all the countries within the continent to discuss and debate how can a standard in a certain topic look like and work across all our different nations. When we have agreed on a regional European level that one standard is acceptable and should be implemented, then any national standard which is in conflict with this one will be abolished. And then we have a different relation to the ISO. ISO makes standards which is of use for the entire globe. And Europe have a voluntary relation to it. You see the dotted line there. So we can choose if we want to adopt any ISO standards. But when we adopt it at the European level, it is obligatory implemented into all the countries in Europe. Developing standards take quite a while. It starts with proposals and call for experts, and then they sit down together to develop, work forward drafts, and this in itself can take quite a while. Just imagine 20 people around the globe sitting down, writing the same paper together. That is kind of the process a standard is going through. And when you finally have a working draft that looks quite okay, then you send it out for hearing so that you can get comments, and then fixing of the comment process starts, and then you get an approval. Then it's published, and after about 5 years, it is revised. So each 5 year, a standard comes back on the table and questions are asked. Does it still work? Is it something new going on in the industry that we need to take into considering? Is it something that needs to change, which is making it challenging for the industry? If there is anything, then a revision is opened. If everything works fine, everything is clear, then it just continues as it is. New standards keep also coming, and this is one of the examples of a pre-standard. Due to the technologies that we have around us and the great speed in new developing technologies, some found it necessary to start with the technical report, which is the beginning stage before a standard. You can start directly with the standard, but sometimes it's needed to develop a technical report up front. And here the aim was to make a kind of FM technology literacy for FM managers and organizations to enable them to communicate about basics within technology. And the name, and bold name, kind of shows how it was developed. So you see that it is a TR, which means technical report. And then it's an ISO, so it was developed as an ISO level. Then you see the CEN mark, which is linked to SN, which means Standards Norway. So it was developed at global level at ISO, then Europe adopted it, and then it applies in all our countries. And the year it was implemented was the last numbers, the colon, and then the 2024. And the name of this technical report is 41016. So it belongs to the series of FM standards, which is the 41000 series. Standards enable things like this ATM machine and the credit card. And it's something that with many years have just expected to fit around the globe. And this is due to standards. So standards open markets and makes innovation possible through this way of working. When Susanna and Sarah and Monsieur and I looked further into standards and how they paved the way for transformation in the built environment, we started to look for standards' role in research. We agreed on the process for going forward, looked for standards that mention facility management, and especially the ISO 41000 series, and screened them through a 4-stage process. And then we analyzed a few of them in further detail. In this process, we realized there are at least 3 research and standardization streams. Facility management typically belongs to the management stream, and many researchers stay within this stream when they do their research. Then there exists a technical stream which relates to building codes and other similar aspects. And there is one which is digital stream, which typically is about transmission of signals and development of BIM and the like. Each of these are very distinct kind of research communities and research focuses. Sometimes researchers combine 2 of them, but we haven't seen really anyone who combined all 3 of them yet. And we hope that this framework can help people to pick up on these 3 research streams forward. When we analyzed our result, we also created this framework for analyzing standards role and the role they play in research. And we realized there is a kind of 5 ways to do it. We can have a thematic analysis of the topic of interest. We can look at the categorical analysis of research and standardization streams. We can look at the textual analysis of the term or standards. How is it used throughout the publication, throughout the research? And then 4th, how did the standards influence the research and the research methods and the frameworks? And then finally, what kind of audience is the research aimed at? So for the audience, typically they either aim at research or practice or standardization bodies or a combination of it. For the methodological part, some make it a big point to keep it inside the method and make really, really, really good use of it. And to use it throughout and use it as a core part of shaping the research methods. And even through that, analyze what exists out there and develop a new standards and suggest that as a new way to implement and improve the practice. With textual analysis, it's all about author's attention to use the term standards. Which chapters does it occur in? Sometimes it's only in the introduction because they want to define a term, and then they don't really use it any longer. Some use the term to refer to just practices like standard interview protocol or standard deviation and similar. So it's more treated like a general term. And then you have the 3 standard and research streams that we identified. And the 4 topics that we typically saw within the research that we found. People have a thematical topic of interest for ambition for co-development, digital transition, sustainable transition, and knowledge production. And then we have some that have the general term that kind of falls out, is the standard deviation group. They don't really work with FM or don't really use standards. It's just a term within, so it pops up in our search. The way that we see it is that standardization body and research organization like CIB are important facilitators for societal transformation. And we see the standards can be an important driver to accelerate the transition of our industry to a digital and sustainable world. I also promised you that I brought with me some examples of later research. I think one of the bigger projects we have had here at NTNU is led by one of my colleagues called Carmel Lindqvist. It's called Bridging the Gap, where we have looked at how digital twins and digital platforms can enter into the FM industry. Digital twin and digital platform is quite well used in the construction phase in the building industry. and we are trying to understand how the link is over to the operational. Currently, it's just assumed it should work well, but it doesn't necessarily work well at all. One master and PhD students, together with I, looked into the theory behind and drew up this simplification for what a digital twin is. And then we went out and talked with practice. What are their thoughts? And then we saw that research is quite far ahead of practice. Many in practice haven't even entered into this model. They don't necessarily have any digital drawing. And we as researchers, we are already talking about self-learning and self-regulating opportunities and intelligent twins. Most practitioners that we met, they are looking forward to have digital shadows or as-built twin and censored BIM, censored twins, with all the historic information in and linking it with sensors and getting some real-time information. And I didn't really understand the importance of this before a while after we had published this paper. When a practitioner picked it up, put it on a slide in a practitioner's conference saying, "This is the best model of digital twin I've ever seen." And then he said two things that kind of shocked me. He said the three upper level heroes, that is a researcher who drank some magic potion and fantasized. It's way far from what is the reality. And this person, he came from one of the communities, the public organization, which is the most forward in Norway when it comes to digitalisation. And he said, it's level 3 and 4 where we work. At the moment, we are working on getting as-built twin for all our building portfolio, getting all historical information on all components and so forth. And we'll use the remaining time of my working life to make it into a censored twin. And estimated that would be about 20 years. So you can get it together with this guy called Gisinger to look a bit deeper into it, into the information management of twins. And this model is quite important for him in this communication part. And based on this, we also talked with two other organizations who is quite forward about how they are doing all these things, how they're driving the implementation of technologies, how they are building up the information inside their buildings and envisioning their future. So this green background relates to some standards around BIM and how to create them. And then he said, to enable circularity in FM, you need to look at point 1 and point 2 on this illustration. So point 1 is when you kind of have a new building and you build it up information-wise and layer-wise. And point 2 for many is about the end of the building's life. But that's when the building is starting to refurbish or repurposed and reused for other elements. And he said that 1 and 2, they coincide at the same time. And then this illustration forms a circle. And that's where the circle elements comes in information management. So underneath here, he's written a story about if you have a building, those who create information and opportunity for circularity, they work 20 years before those who are picking it up later on. So it's not the same who does this. It's a new team. And they are depending on those who are walking up front. So it's really important to have a good framework for what information to collect and how to hand it over to the next time you need to update. Another PhD of mine continued to look into a similar case and what they thought about digital twins and how it supported circularity. And there also it comes forward that it's about documentation of process and practices, figuring out the data set and the property sets, and to able to advance, it's quite a lot down into the details of our work. And she also followed another project in Norway who was demolishing quite known building with the aim to reuse the material in a different project, and to see how this process went from being a manual to a digital process, to understand the complications behind it. And she mapped out each and every step, and also the data collection format that they used to get through with it. So they collected information, mapped it, and created the material database in the form of an Excel. Then they set out a different evaluations tool to be able to define what products could be used and plan for reuse to other projects. And this is quite a time-consuming process. And for facility management, to advance further and to transform really, we actually need to understand each of these steps for each of our services to be able to come to that kind of a future. If we are going to transform, it's not only about the digital aspects, it's also about how we as organization are changing. So Ademi and Sætre and we looked into a conglomerate who tried to change their business models in sustainable directions. And one of the big realizations that we got is the need for knowledge. You can't transform to anything that there is not a common understanding of. So a lot of the efforts for this conglomerate was to ensure they were able to create and acquire and retain and transfer the knowledge across individuals, across the organization, and into their routines as well. An outcome from this research was one kind of a shopping list for different actions the different organizations can implement to operationalize this into their organizations, all from setting goals, having dialogues, to educating people, to implementing standards, to communicating with research, to have dedicated teams that spread across the organization, so ensuring that each of the persons involved and units involved have someone with some competence that can help everyone rise to the challenge. Forward, the ongoing research on my end relate to sustainability in research-constrained environments. It also relates to European reporting directive and standards for sustainability, and also one transformation that influences everyone, no matter what kind of industry you come from. AI is maybe the biggest transforming agent that we see now. It challenges how we are doing our work, challenging how we are communicating. It's challenging our cultures and our knowledge, and slowly it will start to transform. And currently I'm working on understanding how it changes education around me. So transformation is much more than digitalization. It changes work process, changes cultures, and it changes business models. And it's something that takes time, just like we saw with the metric system. It can easily take 150 years before things are implemented. But for the AI's sake, I hope that we are a bit quicker. Thank you. Any thoughts and questions from you in the audience or from Don Ping?
Thank you, Nora, for your excellent presentation. It's very impressive. And, facility management is crucial for sustainability. So you integrate them very well into one topic. Thank you so much. And may I call for questions from the audience? Mogis, please. You have questions, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nora. It was a very wonderful presentation. I like it, and I've learned a lot. One question that I have is, as you said, specifically, standardization is one of the greatest tools that's going to enable the transformation of the sustainability and the digital transformation. In this regard, I fully agree that it's very important, but in some of the global south countries where the most of them are low income countries, one of the critical aspects is the standard is there, but the probability of being implemented is very rare. And with respect to the facility management, it goes into the crisis management where when the timely and preventive maintenance aspect of it is downplayed significantly. And rather than it will go for a crisis management, it will be treated, the facilities is going to be maintained after a damage is being occurred rather than the theoretical preventive maintenance mechanism being put in place. So how do you see this aspect? The top-down approach usually doesn't work. And how can we match and change the culture? And how do you think will be more efficiently being implemented in ensuring a facility management transformation in this regard? Thank you so much, and I'm very impressed, and I learned a lot from the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukesh. I think this is a very interesting question. It's quite a big question. And it also relates to the development we have had here. If you go a few decades back, it's the same here. We didn't think of it. So it's a lot about learning what it is, maybe creating education in it, being proud of what you do so that when you come out to the society, you actually communicate well around the topic. We had some efforts a few decades ago where we created quite a lot of different pamphlets communicating to politicians what is FM with just a few slides, pages, with simple language. Why is it important? How does it harm your economy? How does it harm your people? How does it harm the core businesses that you have? And politicians change. So this is kind of a continuous process. But you need to work on each element of the society to get it forward. So it needs to start with yourself, with your education, with your politicians, with the different governments to show the value of FM as well. And slowly it do improve. So I know both in our commission meeting and also in standardization meetings, we have different African countries who are quite active and who meets up, which is quite nice to see. And I know some of the research in that Kathy Mitchell is doing in South Africa as well is also interesting this topic. That it's needed to have a different perspectives on sustainability when you discuss it, depending if the environment have a lot of resources or if it's more limited resources, or if the population and the changes in populations and populations' well-being are different, then the needs changes as well. So the analysis lens needs to be slightly different. But I think the outcome from all this is good frameworks that can be used across contexts. So I'm looking very much forward to having frameworks that we can use in both global north and south, and west and east, to discuss the different elements of this. I'm not sure if I managed to answer your question, but I think there is something inside all that. But it's a very big question to deal with.
Thank you, Nora. It's a very good question, Mogis, and it's also a very good answer. Thank you. And we have another question from Carmel, please.
Yeah. Hi, Nora. We talk often, but it's nice to hear you in this. Hear you're presenting your work in this light, and it was a very good overview of what you are doing, and the work that we do together in CIB W070. Well, I kind of just was kind of curious because when I think of standards, I always think of best practice, and then transitions is kind of about change and maybe even questioning best practice. So how do you see the link then between standards and transition when you're considering your own work?
Standards is something which always is evolving. So we talked about earlier that it takes time to develop them. That can take quite long year. If you include the technical report positioning in the development of standards, 10 years is not uncommon. And then there comes this updating routine, which is every 5th year, where a standard comes in for questioning. Is it still relevant? Is there something which is not working in practice? Has new terms or new changes happened in practice that needs to influence the standards? And then there is a decision made. If there is no issue with it, if it seems to work, if people understand it, it continues. If there are elements that are unclear, those gets changed and updated. So every 5th year about things can change. The standard is not set in stone. It's always in development. So I think it's a moving target. So it is in transition. It is a change process. So it's more open quest to keep it in the back of the mind, to keep asking, how does it work? Does it work well? What does work well? What doesn't work? And why doesn't it work? And what needs to change for it to be better for us?
Yeah.
So
So
it's more a deeper, to look a little bit deeper into it.
Yeah. So would you see transitions as part of the development of standards? Or
yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
One step of the process that is always ongoing.
Yeah.
So, and I should also present Carmel. She's the other joint coordinator for the W70. So
Okay,
we used to be 3, now we are 2, and it's us 2 who are the coordinators.
Okay, thank you, Kamal. Nora, thank you so much. Any more questions? This one from Dr. Liu, please.
You are muted.
You are muted.
There you go. Okay, thank you very much, Nora. Very comprehensive, interesting presentation. I have a question about the standardization. If you look at other industry like ICT or telecommunication, standardization is globally down and is always led and very intensively competed by big companies in big countries because the standardized are very universal. It's based on scientific knowledge, so it can be universal. And for facility management, I mean, buildings, constructions, weather conditions, social norms are important, right? So, and that is very local. So how can you balance the universal standardization and the local adaptation? So if you have a universal standard, can it be applied to different countries and regions with different local condition?
Thank you, Julio. This is also a very good question, and it relates to this kind of hierarchy that we talked about. You have the international, then you have the local region, and then you have the national elements. Standards, which is on a more global, international level, they are much more briefly defined. And that's because it should work in Japan and in US, in Norway, and Sweden, and South Africa, and China at the same time. And if it's too detailed, it's very hard for them to agree because there are different policies, there are different regulations and laws and cultures and climates and building codes. So it's kind of the main the main things they can agree on. And then it comes to the regional elements, which then can advance this understanding. So they can say that, okay, this we agree on, but in our context, we need something that builds this out. And then it works across our region. And at least in Europe, when we have done that, normally this is then valid for all the countries in Europe. But this makes it important for many people in the industry to be involved in research now in standardization. So many of the standardization experts are typically CEOs or consultants or people working with this, who sit together and struggle with some nitty-gritty details because they're working across international contexts. So they see kind of where things are not fitting well, and then they need to discuss with other partners in different contexts to see how can it fit in both these contexts, because they would like to achieve that. That's when you are able to have this USC plug and making it work in every context we are going. It's because someone did that discussion and agreement. So that is important to kind of move forward. In Europe, we have this, if we have the local standards, the national standards, as soon as we have accepted a European, the local disappears if it is in conflict. But you can have many which kind of relates, but which is not directly in conflict with the European standards. So you need to look at all the three layers at the same time, I would say, and to map the surrounding as well. I'm not sure if I really answered your question, but I hope you got some of the answers.
Yeah. Then I think because previously when I studied telecommunication industry, it clearly shows that standardization is used as a competitive tool.
Yes.
Companies want to use it to be in favor of their own business, and countries compete for like CDMA, all these all these standards have many of them died, right? So I'm thinking standardization is used as how to say, as for competition to win among the companies, or it's just for like a government or society wants the real estate companies to act properly for the environment, for the society, instead of totally a business issue.
It's both. It's both. If you have the standardization organizations, they work for us all. So when you have the individual organization fighting for their standards, then you get the lock-in opportunities. But when you have this global standardization opportunity, then it opens the markets for everyone. So it's good to have it there, and good to get all these ones in here to discuss together and agree. And yes, it is also in standardization bodies for many considered as a benefit being involved, because when you are part of these discussions, how does it work in my context? How does it work in your context? How can we agree on things? They know things a year or two or three ahead of the market, so they can change their entire operation before the standard is out there. So many of those involved are there because of this pre-knowledge opportunity, and also because this through dialogue people understand each other better. So when people who haven't been part of the work read one sentence or part of a sentence in a standard, they don't necessarily know the discussion behind, so they don't get the full understanding. But those who have been involved develop a much deeper understanding of it, and that creates a benefit for them.
I see. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good, thank you. Again, a good question and excellent answers. Okay, the time runs over. I think everybody enjoyed today's presentation and the Q&A. And I hope you have a nice day, Laura. And it's still morning for you, right? So have a nice day, and thank you for all the audience to participate into this seminar. Thank you so much.
Thank you again for a nice invitation
Bye-bye.
and opportunity.
Nora, I missed to meet your president, but I'm happy to receiving your dean in July.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Good to hear. Bye-bye.